to Saint-Jean-d'Angely, round 9 of the FIM MX2 Motocross World Championship. We're live at the circuit as always. Weather conditions around about 18, 19 degrees, maybe pushing 20. It's comfortable. It's not overly warm, but the track is dry, it's hard, it's slick, and it's fast. Past winners here in MX2 or 125 include the likes of Steve Ramon back in 2002. He was the first ever winner of a 125 or MX2 GP. And there haven't been too many more since then in the 125 class. In fact, he was the first and only 125 winner on a KTM. Because then in the modern era, the first on an MX2 machine to win was Tyler Rattray in 2004, and David Philippart was next in 2005. That's where we are, just up the coast from Bordeaux, an hour or so up the road. Lots of Jordi Tixier fans in here, as well as Dylan Ferrandis and Romain Fevre. But also there's a lot of Jeffrey Hurling's fans here as well, and Arnaud Tonus fans making their way back out onto the banking. That's the second part of two bankings. There's another one just a bit further around the corner, just after the finish line area. As I said earlier, reminiscent of the crowds that you see in Ernée, which has a much higher bank, and Ernée is the scene of the 2015 FIA Monster Energy Motocross of Nations. That was announced last night. This year, of course, we've got to look forward to Kegums in Latvia at the end of September for the Motocross of Nations to be held there. Still, there's plenty of racing action to go on in the World Championship calendar itself. But this, the 9th round of what will be 17 in 2014. Jeffrey Hurlings leads the World Championship. He held the red plate coming into this French round, and he continues to hold the championship lead as well after victory in Moto number 1 a little earlier on, which we will see highlights of in just a quick moment. Here we go. The gate dropped, and Jeffrey Hurlings up the inside. Max Anstey ran wide, and it was Hurlings who pulled the Foxhole Shot Award. Number 84, Jeffrey Hurlings then led the opening laps from 99 Anstey on the Yamaha, 92 Valentin Guyot of Switzerland on the KTM. And behind them, in 4th and 5th, was the 911 KTM of Jordi Tixier, and 200 of Arnaud Tonus. Ivo Monticelli, 128 here on the orange KTM, was in 6th place for the first 3 or 4 laps, but then he made a mistake and lost that as a rider and a bike went down. That might have been Freddie van der Vlist, actually, number 88, who crashed on the uphill. Max Anstey, riding with a hand injury on the bike at Cosworth Yamaha, number 99, was easily moved aside by Arnaud Tonus, pushing the Brit back to 4th place, and then he came under pressure and was passed by Tixier, pushed back to 5th. Max Anstey would eventually finish in 7th place on that number 99 Yamaha, not even 80% fit this weekend. Valentin Guyot, though, standing construct KTM, was in a battle with Arnaud Tonus for all but 3 of the laps. This battle was as close as it got. Tonus went through to 2nd eventually, after even Monticelli crashed out of 6th. He kept going back to the battle with 99 Max Anstey, as Romain Fevre, one of the French favourites here, 461 on the Wilbo Star, and Husqvarna found a way through. It wasn't long before 122. Dylan Ferrandis, another French favourite on the CLS Kawasaki Monster Energy, also went past Anstey. Ferrandis moved to 6th then. This guy here, 461 Fevre, came home in 5th, as Jorge Zaragoza, the young Spanish teenage sensation, who was here riding as a wild card, fell from 10th about the midpoint of the race and would not score any points after struggling to get that Kawasaki started. Jordi Tixier was urged on by the partisan French crowd here, as you would expect, on his Red Bull KTM, but he could only do enough to finish in 4th place. He was, however, the fastest and the strongest French rider. This guy here getting stronger with each Grand Prix. Valentin Guyot of Switzerland on the standing construct KTM, picking up 3rd, his best ever result in MX2. Jeffrey Hurlings raced to his 13th victory of the season and was a comfortable winner in the end over Arnaud Tonus. Guyot was third, Tixier fourth, Febvre fifth, and it was Ferrandis, Anstey, Tonkov, Siwa, Petrov. They were your top 10 riders. But we're going down to Amy. She's got Jose Boutron with her.
We're back down here on the start line ahead of the second MX2 race. Let's have a word with some of our riders and find out how they got in race one. We'll first come to Jose Boutron, who looks very focused on his gate. Jose, you had a tough time in race one. What happened?
Yeah, I struggled a little bit on the start. I was too late on the gate. I didn't feel so comfortable this weekend on my bike with this track. I really don't know what happened. The results are not the result what I want, but I have no choice to fight again, to fight every weekend.
Absolutely. And what do you think you need to do? Is it like more of a mental thing? You just need to push through that barrier and get back to the results we saw you achieving last year?
Yeah, no, everything is about my head. You know, I have factory bike, the bike is perfect, the suspension is perfect. It's just my head, just focus one line and go for it.
Well, you go for it in race two and we'll let you focus now. Let's move down a couple of gates and have a word with Ivo Monticelli, because again for you it was such a shame in race one you made that fantastic start.
Yeah, I make fantastic start, but I try to pass Max Anstey, and when I make, we touch and I crash. It's normal, it's motocross, but now I try to make good start and no crash.
And how do you feel about your season so far?
Yeah, this season is really good for me, because every time like top 10 for me is good, and yeah, good for team and everything good.
Best of luck in race two.
Thank you.
Here's how the riders will line up. Jeffrey Hurlings, after winning the qualifying race on Saturday, will go to the line first, followed by Arnaud Tonus, Romain Fevre and the rest. Adam Wheeler from nontrackoffroad.com joins me. Adam, good to see you here. You just come back. Any news to report?
Not so much, Paul. Hoping for better for Max Anstey in this moto. First one tightened up a bit, obviously not doing many laps. A couple of, electric gremlins in that Yamaha, but yeah, ready to go for this one. Fantastic start in the first moto. Let's see if Jeffrey Hurlings is going to run away with it again.
Well, the Monster Energy 15-second ward goes up for the second time of the day here for MX2. Looks like there's a little bit of cloud cover now, starting to creep over the Saint-Jean-d'Angely circuit. About an hour and a half north of Bordeaux on the west coast of France. And the gate about to drop here. Hurlings right away over on the right hand side, out of the seat early, gets a good drag.
Hurlings again.
And looking like, making that whole shot his own. Tonus getting pushed wide at the top of the hill on the 200. So Fevre second, Tonus third. Boutron a better start for him in fourth this time. And Guyot and Tixier 2 into 1 in that corner. Definitely doesn't always go, but those two managing to ride it out. Done a little bit of work on the bottom part of this track here, getting rid of some of those ruts, but not taking too much of it out, so that's nice to see. Still options for the riders as they head over the finish line for the first time. It's Hurlings, Tonus, Boutron, Fevre, Tixier, Zaragoza, a good start in 6th, Geiser 7th, Guyot, Siwa, Growlers, Ferrandis, Tonkov, Covington, Petrov, Anstey in 15th, Lieber just. Monticelli didn't get the good start that he was asking for. Pocock and Yamamoto, they're your top 20 guys over the line for the first time, with Lars van Berkel, Brian Burgers, who else is down there? No one that shouldn't be really.
And the top 2 riders in this class at the moment, Paul, just leading the way. Jeffrey Hurlings second, Arnaud Tonus in second place. Let's see if he can go with the Dutchman.
Well, Boutron and Fevre. Well, Jose Boutron was saying on the pre-grid interview a moment ago with Amy Darg, there's Tixier having to pull out of a challenge there on Romain Fevre. And Fevre going at the inside of Boutron. Boutron was saying, Adam, that it's all in his head at the moment. There's nothing wrong with the bike. He's got factory bikes, factory suspension, everything there is perfect. It's just down to him. But this section here, this little pyramid wall, catching a lot of riders out. You can see how slick it is on the upslope there, where it's just freshly been watered. Guys stalling, crashing out from there in the first race. And I don't know, it's one of those nonsensical obstacles, but it's doing its job. A little bit of water gone down here on the sighting, well, before the sighting lap. See how wet it is in 1 or 2 of those corners, but
The thing you can't really see so much on the TV as well is how stony it is out there. There's a lot of pebbles, a lot of rocks. It's, you know, if you just throw water on that, then you're inviting some pretty sketchy moments.
Yeah, there's a lot of, I mean, Gauthier Paulin came in during the first MX2 broadcast.
So just getting pushed out.
And he was saying, like, the start, for instance, is really perfect. And then you go up the hill through here, and straight away you've got a lot of crowning rock. And, you know, it shines up, it just sits there in the ground, and you, like you say, Adam, you water it, it just goes to slick. So it's very difficult for the riders. Sometimes they've got grip, sometimes they haven't.
Very lucky.
Guillaume just looked like he hit neutral or changed to... two more guys going down. Lieber and
Monticelli.
You know what? I wonder if it's so slick on the takeoff there.
They're just getting no traction.
And the thing is, there should be waved yellows there. Guys should not be jumping at this stage, you know?
I think the yellows are out, Paul, but what do you do there? I mean, you've got to...
Well, if the yellows, that's what I'm saying, if the yellows should be waving, which means guys should not be in a position then after that where they're jumping and launching to put themselves at that danger, you know, avoiding bikes and that. You've got to roll and roll. So the stewards will be definitely looking at that. Fortunately, nobody hurt in that little incident, but I think there was water on the track, and that is a very, very slick takeoff.
But the problem is there is you're head down coming out of the corner. You're committed to that first double on the step up, so you're not going to see the yellow flag. You know, it has to be out earlier at the entrance to the corner.
Well, that's it. But having said that, you know, when you come out of the corner, you're then looking up to see
But you're committed.
They should be yellow flag, but you can back out of that there. It's not a difficult jump to get over anyway. But I don't know. We'll have to see if we've got another angle on it. But you see Jeffrey Hurling's just wrestling with the back end there, is dealing with the wet parts of the track. Tonus, though, look, fastest man on track. Right, here we go. Replay.
So
that was him hitting neutral and getting caught, Guillaume, on the face of the jump there. So that one was nowhere near where all the other stuff, he was very lucky not to get hit there. But then I don't think these guys, they've collided on the takeoff.
They've hit each other.
Yeah.
But then this accident here, there's another KTM rider coming to shot at the bottom of the picture.
Over here.
There. Yeah.
Well short. That was Automarker.
I think it's just one of those freak things where it's unrelatable.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got riders coming together, you're making a mistake, and then another guy just like completely endoing. And like Tonus, that we were just saying a minute ago, is managing to match Hurling's here, but Hurling's, I think, is just exercising some caution, Paul, because the track's really weird for me. There's been some good work there, you know, they haven't flattened all of those ruts and taken away the technical pass, but then the water, you know, it's flooded around the far side of the track.
Yeah, and then like through there as well. I was talking to Sean Simpson after the MXGP race, the corner just after the finish, which is just behind this camera shot now, where there's those waves just there in front of the building. He said he thought that would be a lot better, but it's so slick and polished that, you know, it's so difficult to get drive down and get traction. But as soon as you water that part of the track, for instance, there's just nothing anybody can do. You're almost a passenger on the bike waiting for it to hook up and then go again, you know?
I mean, there's no real give in those ruts. Once you're committed, you're in there, you know. If there's a big rock or something else, or, you know, like a slight kick on one of these takeoff to the jumps, then you're just going to have to ride the thing and hope for the best.
And obviously these guys as well, you know, what we don't see, what they see is, because cameras and TV always flattens it out, is how deep those ruts are.
Yeah.
You know, they are deep and they are solid, you know, and there's no room for manoeuvre. Like that one there, for instance, she hit that straight. There's Lieber coming in for repairs.
Tell you what, that was a lucky getaway.
It was a lucky getaway for more than one rider, definitely.
Well, the big shame of it all, you know, I'm glad nobody's hurt, but Guyard as well, crashing out of that position, that probably could have been the first overall, well, a very good chance of a first overall podium for him.
Well, yeah, his third in Moto number 1 was the first time he'd got into a podium finish, wasn't it? So obviously, podium was surely beckoning, because he has been a revelation in MX2 this year. Oh, that's looking nice actually through there. It looks really tacky. The guy, you saw Tonus there, just able to turn direction.
Yeah.
Just at will.
You mentioned Sean Simpson a minute ago. He had a nice line down the hill, just going wide and cutting through that corner, really using like a classic cornering arc, and it was helping him carry some decent speed through that run.
I was watching Hurlings in practice up through here yesterday morning. There's 5 waves right at the base of that uphill, and he was really one of, well, actually, I think he was probably the only guy that I saw do it consistently well, where the back end was always driving, you know. Everyone else, the back end was losing ground, losing traction, and getting airtime. And that's where someone like Hurlings was making his time yesterday. But Tonus matching him lap time for lap time, 2 laps running. He set the fastest lap of the race, 49.3. We're only talking hundredths of a second between him and Hurlings, but determined not to let Hurlings get away too early in this race, because this is kind of what we need, isn't it? The first 2 riders in the championship, Jeffrey Hurlings, number 84, Red Bull KTM, and Tonus here, who's getting over the step at the top of the hill on the CLS Kawasaki Monster Energy bike there, the green bike, number 200. He needs to be on Hurlings to try and pressure him, to try and force him into a mistake for this championship to gain a little bit of momentum and a bit of excitement, because after that first race, what is he, 42 points clear of Tonus at the moment, Jeffrey Hurlings?
Well, we've just tipped into the second half of the season. I think it'll be a pretty crucial moment if Arno Tonus can actually force an overtaking move here. Hurlings went backward once or twice in the Grand Prix of Bulgaria at arm pump. Maybe he's having the same problem here.
Replay at the start, Dylan Ferrandis, 122 right in the middle.
He's got a sore shoulder, hasn't he, Paul? Ferrandis got a sore shoulder, I think, from yesterday. Crashed in the qualification heat.
Yeah.
Didn't seem too happy this morning. But, you know, just looking at this little, you know, duel between Tonus and Hurlings, you know, similar to what we had in MXGP, it's, you know, you see sections where the Kawasaki is able to creep up and gain a couple of meters, and then Hurlings just mainly on the exits to the corners. Yeah. It's like having to pull away again, and it's, I don't know, I think it's going to be like this for quite a good while.
But it's also one of those where maybe Hurlings just in the beginning of the race just erring on the side of caution, knowing that the track is wet and slick. How much is he sort of backing off, and how much is Tonus pushing at 100%, you know, and not taking the same kind of, you know, cautious route?
The last lap he's just done was his best, and the fastest lap of the race at 1:49.3. Tonus, you know, was only half a second slower, obvious as it may seem on the screen. But, you know, which one of these two can keep up that kind of intensity at a 49 kind of, you know, low lap time for the next 20 minutes?
Yeah, well, we know Jeffrey Hurlings has no problems with his fitness, and obviously his speed as well. He's kind of got everything, hasn't he? Bless us, Matthias, bless us. So obviously going out. Not sure if he got up on the bank there and stalled it. But Jeffrey Hurlings just bouncing and dancing his way across the hard ruts and just being innovative with his line choice there. Very nice to see. But question is, how's he going to deal with Tonus? That's the thing. Just over 20 minutes to go, plus 2 laps in this second MX2 race. Round 9 of the MX2 Motocross World Championship, Saint-Jean-d'Angely in France. Jeffrey Hurlings, he was about a second and a half clear of Arnold Tonus at the end of lap 4. They're just about to come towards the end of lap 5. Be interesting to see if that gap has gone out. Adam Wheeler on trackoffroad.com still with me. Adam, those two disappearing at the front, leaving these guys 13, 14 seconds behind, starting with Romain Febvre on the white, Wilbo, Nastan Husqvarna, Jordi Tixier and Tim Geiser, who's having a better ride this time on that HRC Garibaldi Honda. This would be an interesting matchup, wouldn't it, for the fans out there and for us as well if we saw a lot of it.
I think the implications as well are for the overall podium between these two. Tixier fourth in the first moto, perhaps?
Yeah.
So, you know, like, you know, Tixier, the first Battle of France, if you like. Is he going to be the first home rider to make it across the finish line?
Well, obviously still quite a lot of laps to go, but in terms of Tim Geiser, I think was just unlucky. He made a couple of mistakes, too many in the first race. Hurlings would win it, Tonus would be second, Febvre would be third, tied with Tixier.
Well, so that really is a race then, isn't it?
So the two guys here on the white bike, Romain Febvre, 461, who is currently in third place, and the guy behind him, 911, on the orange Red Bull KTM. They are duking it out for French supremacy, both tied on points for 36. That will be the third step of the podium. And 911 passes Febvre, then third place is his. Febvre stays where he is, then obviously he'll keep hold of that. But both guys have got to deal with the guy behind them, number 243, Tim Geiser. And he is getting stronger with every Grand Prix, isn't he? Just renewed a 2-year contract with HRC for the next 2 years to stay in MX2. Massive weight off his shoulders, but also expectation. Febvre. And a mistake there from Febvre, but manages to squeeze Tixier on the way down the hill. Look how that line's changing now.
Geiser's really going to mug, you know, he's just trying to find a way to get past them, isn't he? Go for that. I mean, they're squabbling between themselves, but that Honda's just ready. Need to pass now. The Tixier's got the word. He needs to make that position. Is Febvre going to know, Paul, that he needs that place for a podium? He's not going to be working out himself, is he? I mean, he's going to need some sort of And there's still a long way in the race to go, but he's going to need some sort of indication that he has to get that position back for another top 3. And he's been so close on numerous occasions this year, hasn't he?
Yeah, the line's changing, swerving out to avoid that puddle.
It's quite nice if he can carry that speed up the hill there.
Danger man in the background on the green Kawasaki. Dylan Ferrandis, but running down the outside. Tixier making a move.
No. Oh, he's done it.
Makes it stick. So Tixier then suddenly dives into 3rd place on that 911 machine. So the white bike here, Romain Febvre, now pushed back into 4th. The Honda of Geiss is still 5th, but this guy here on the green Kawasaki, 122, Dylan Ferrandis, obviously wants to make up for the qualifying race yesterday. He came home 6th in the first race earlier today. So he would like to get past all 3 of these guys, at least finish in a podium finish in the moto at his home Grand Prix, but he's got 2 of the tenacious French guys ahead of him, hasn't he? And the Slovenian Tim Geiser.
Yeah, and just set his best lap of the race as well.
Nice line! Geiser charged it down the inside.
Febvre's having a few problems, isn't he?
Oh, he's got him back. But just look at the momentum that Geiser, okay, it's not working there, but if you haven't got a rider in front of you, that's where you can make a lot of time in terms of swinging around the outside and not queuing in those braking bumps. But
it is a strange kind of speed jump you were commenting on earlier, Paul. I mean, the installation of it, I guess, must just be to lower a little bit of the average speed because, you know, it doesn't really add much to that flow of the section, does it?
No, let's not forget they have changed the layout of the circuit here since we were here in 2012. You know, they come over the finish line, drop down, instead of going right and continuing to go right up the second of 4 hills when you look at them.
Yeah.
We now turn immediately right, come up the 4th one, drop down the 3rd one, you know, and use them in a slightly different manner, don't we? So, and when you get to the top, that means that's had to change to put that chicane in, because that normally utilises the route down to the step down. So you have a chicane that carries too much speed into those waves, that could be an accident waiting to happen. So I guess they had to do something, but that high, really?
Yeah. And also just these little jumps on the corner of the turns, you know, some people kind of thinking, well, okay, that's different, and others the same. Well, what's the point of that?
Well, Dylan Ferrandis, 122, he's in 6th place. Boutron on the Silver Action KTM is 7th. Zero on the Rockstar Energy Suzuki is 8th. Thomas Covington, the Monster Energy CLS Kawasaki rider, the young American, is in 9th. Well, he was. Valentin Guillot just pops over the line ahead of him, so pushing the American back into 10th place. And then we've got Petros, Growlers, Just, Brian Gorgas, Mel Pocock, Hitachi KTM, Max Anstey in 16th. Magni Klingsheim, his teammate, so the 2 Bike of Cosmic Yamahas, Linus Stern in 16th and 17th. What we're looking at here,
The overtaking move.
around the outside.
Tixier going through to 3rd. They're coming on the inside of this turn, and that's going at the moment to put him on the podium. But I'm just keeping an eye on Guillot there, Paul, because you mentioned him a moment ago. He's in 9th place. He can get up to 7th. Jeremy Sewer and Jose Buchon just like a second ahead, both of them, and that could you know also have
implications.
He needed like I think 5 points to make the podium shot, but he might have to rely on a mistake from Tixier at this point. Another 2, he's going to be 4 points off a maiden podium.
Yeah, he'd be disappointed with that, especially as his trainer Yves Demarié is French, spends a lot of time in the south of France, so he has done this year, training in the winter and, you know, basing himself down there, living with Yves Demarié. So, you know, they would have been working hard, particularly for this GP as well.
Guys are maybe just making a mistake here or there because he's just lost the toe, hasn't he? Febvre, how was his lap on the last one at 53.3? Coming back across, see if he's got, that must have gone down a little bit.
Tixier sets his personal best last time around, and just a couple of tenths slower this time around.
Yeah, Febvre responded 2 seconds faster almost that lap. There's the points for the podium. Quite spread out. And the championship as well, Paul, like you said.
Yeah,
Hurley's on for another, is that 5th double in a row, perhaps?
Wow, it's kind of how many doubles can a guy have in a season? You know, it's double in Thailand, and then you know, Bulgaria, Netherlands, Spain, Britain, and here if he does it here. So
5 in a row. They're still unbeaten, of course. When was the last time he lost a Grand Prix? That he, you know, I think it was
Tommy Searle,
2012.
Teufenthal.
Yeah, Germany. End of the last Grand Prix of 2012. But that's because of a mechanical problem as well. Dylan
Ferrandis. Tell you what, it's not an easy jump to clear and then land and set yourself up for those ruts, because again, what we can't see on the downside of that jump in the background is how deep those ruts are. You need to be carrying some serious speed as Dylan Ferrandis gets a little bit loose at the end of the wave section. You know, to get over that, you have to be applying yourself and committing yourself. And to over jump it is not an option, because there are some serious deep ruts back there. And
I think at least 50-60% of this track is about commitment, isn't it? I mean, if you don't really like believe and stick on where you're going, those ruts are just going to catch you out and throw you into the hard stuff, because it is, you know, so stony out there.
Especially here as well, you don't realise how off-cambered that turn is as well. See, I know it's going up and banking around to the right, but if you try to turn too tight, it's amazing how the fall of the ground, if you get it, the angle just slightly wrong, coming out of that first turn up into the second sweeper, again, you can lose so much drive. Get on the gas too early, it wants to bite back. You get off the gas, it wants to high side you, and that's all going through an uphill section. So you really have to, you know, use your throttle control skills. Even here, this final corner, you know, you watch Hurlings and Cairoli around there, for instance. They come in early and they're just nicely drifting their way round, just rolling on the throttle and committing, whereas other guys are applying their power just a fraction of a second later, trying to be a bit more precise, you know, trying not to spin it up. They're horrible ruts at the bottom of the hill there as well.
It's like the ground's kind of similar to what we get in the Czech Republic, isn't it? In Lockett, it's just that sort of marbly, you know, I'd say there's a little bit more give. I think it's been pretty well prepared, you know, compared to some of the previous editions we've had here. But, you know, it is slick, and, you know, we're seeing positions change, you know, the top half of the leaderboard, mainly through mistakes.
Mistake there from Ferrandis. How far away? He's already 35 seconds off. Jeffrey Hurling's our race leader.
I'll tell you what, if the TV director could switch to the battle for the lead, because Arno Tonis has just taken another second out of Jeffrey Hurling. It's down to 1.7 now on that last lap. They must be right behind each other.
Yeah, 1:49.5, so, you know, faster than Hurling's at 1:50.9. So somewhere out on track, about 30 seconds clear, probably somewhere around by the finish line. Any moment now, Jeffrey Hurling's and Arno Tonis, that gap coming down every single lap. Right, Hurling's over the line now, and Tonis, well, 3.7 seconds, so a mistake from Tonis.
Actually, Paul, it's the other way around. I think Hurling's had a bit of a different lap last time. Now he's back in the 49s,
Jeffrey Hurling's jumping nicely into that left hand at the top. He was doing it all day yesterday. He's pretty much landing right smack underneath there. Just like Tonis. Not too many guys doing that. It's difficult to do because you've got to turn, get the angle, land. You're going too quick, you're going over the berm.
Yeah, it's totally measured, isn't it? There's not too many riders in this field that kind of handle their motorcycle the way that Jeffrey Hurlings does. I mean, it really is just like an extension of him. And the yellow flag's out there, so somebody on the stopped on the far side of that jump. Just picking the bike up, perhaps.
That gap, 6.2 seconds. So yeah, maybe Tonis has blown it.
Yeah, it was 5 on the last lap, now going up more and more, so...
Magni Klingscheid, back marker. Bike it costs with the Yamaha.
And Tonis is like, he's not really matching Hurlings every week, but he's keeping him honest, isn't he? I mean, Jeffrey can't afford a mistake, otherwise he's going to find his championship lead halved, isn't it, in one race? That's all you know, Tonis can really do to try and extend this MX2 title dispute all the way into late summer. Yeah,
42 points coming into this race. The gap between Jeffrey Hurlings, your World Championship leader and race leader, and Arno Tonis, this guy here, second in the race and also in the title hunt. That'll go out to 45, so we're getting to almost 1 GP territory, aren't we? You know, 25 points for a race win.
But, you know, just needs Hurlings to blow it one moto, or, you know, DNF like he did in Latvia 2012 when he was fighting with Tommy Searle. 25 points gone, and suddenly it gets interesting again, doesn't it?
Certainly gets more interesting. But it's difficult to emphasise how technical a track this is. You know, you watch the guys going around yesterday and they're saying about how fast, looks pretty fast, up and down, up and down, up and down, but actually there's a lot going on, particularly on race day when you have to deal with loss of traction and bumps coming out of the turns. It really is special. Just under 6 minutes to go, plus 2 laps in the second MX2 race. It's the Grand Prix of France at Saint-Jean-d'Angely on the west coast, central west coast of France, about an hour and a half north of Bordeaux. Jeffrey Hurlings has a 7-second advantage over Arno Tonis. Hurling's teammate here, 911, Jordi Tixier on the Red Bull KTM is in third. We're still yet to wait for him to come over the line, up this hill, through the next left and back down again. That's the gap that he still has to make up. So that'll be, what, about maybe 20 seconds or so, maybe, between Hurlings and Tixier.
And Tixier, look at this rider,
33 seconds.
Hurling's his teammate. I don't know, Paul, one, is he going to stay on that factory KTM next year? Two, it's been not a fantastic season, maybe more expected of the Frenchman.
And also the guy who we saw crash earlier, Valentin Guyot, who's in 10th place at the moment. Obviously third in the first moto, was in a good position until he crashed at the start of the race. People saying could be riding himself into a Red Bull KTM factory deal, and therefore maybe Tixier riding himself out of one. Of course, we all, in the press conferences, journalists like yourself are still pushing Jeffrey Hurlings for an answer in terms of what's going to happen in 2015. He's still non-committal, saying let's get some more races out of the way, but a decision will be made. And if he goes MX2, then it could possibly be Tixier and Guyot. That could be your two riders, possibly.
It's not such an investment for the future, though. I think both of them only have one more season, isn't it? It's a one-shot deal.
Yeah.
But you change for Guyot, then you're swapping like for like, really, aren't you?
Yeah. But there isn't anybody out there standout like a Hurling, so that might be the clincher for KTM as well. Look, we need to keep you in there because we need to win, and we know with you we can win. With Tixier, we're going to pit lane. Here's Dirk Grubel.
Dirk Grubel joins me down here in the pit lane. Dirk, at the moment, as it stands, Jordi Tixier is on that podium. However, he usually finds that he struggles with pressure at home Grand Prix. How was he after race one?
Actually, he took it pretty good today. He's really motivated to race at home, and he's proud to race at the moment now. And for me, he handles really good today. Hopefully, he can finish it on the podium. Would be really happy for him.
Thanks, Dirk.
Yeah, going back to the comments, with Jeffrey, they can guarantee a win almost, barring injury and that kind of thing. But with Tixier, we saw when Jeffrey wasn't on track in Brazil this year, actually based in last year and also Belgium, how the pressure got to him. And we're not just talking the French Grand Prix where you feel the pressure, it's every GP, knowing that you've got to go out and win. And so far, he's fourth in the championship, which is a long way off KTM expectations when he finished second last year.
I just wonder with the exodus in 2015 in the MX2 class, whether that will give him a little bit more, room to breathe and, to come out of his shell, if you like, in terms of having to deal with expectation and pressure. I'd like to think so, because he's a talented rider. He's a very amiable guy. You just question whether he has a little bit of that kind of winner's meanness, that kind of cutting edge to really force a move and take it through. We saw it a couple of times last year. We wanted to see it more this year, but Jordi Tixier at the moment, I think he's just going to be thinking, well, what's the highlight of my season? There's not too many at the moment.
No, you're right. It's only one podium, I think, this year for Tixier, two back-to-back, Bulgaria and the Netherlands.
Well, let's say in theory as well that Jeffrey Hurlings moves up to MXGP next year in 2015, leaves two, potentially three factory KTM MX2 rides. The team and the manufacturer has won that championship for the last, how many years? It's 2007, I think. Tony Cairoli and Yamaha won the last one.
Yeah.
So, it's coming up for almost 10 years. So, that is one of the most sought after 250s in the paddock. So Tixier is really going to have to show in these last couple of races that he deserves to stay on that bike.
Yeah. Well, here's your race leader, Jeffrey Hurlings. Number 84, 8.2 seconds. Hasn't been a dominant display in terms of Jeffrey Hurlings winning by half a lap, half a week, whichever way you want to describe it. But,
I thought we were racing in Italy.
We are. But, it's a win is a win, isn't it? You can say that all day long. You win by half a wheel, half a knobbly, half a lap. It's still 25 points at the end of it. And maybe we're seeing a more mature Jeffrey Hurlings today, with circuit conditions certainly being more slick.
Actually, you pointed out in the press conference that he's kind of stalling a little bit on saying what he's doing next year. The more he stalls and doesn't commit to going to MXGP, I think the more he's going to stay in MX2. And I think if he does stay in MX2, every time he gets out on that track and he wins a moto and wins a Grand Prix, it makes his decision look a little bit more ludicrous.
Yeah, and he did say, I said to him, I put the question to him, because you asked him a couple of questions, and I then followed that up. And because his response to one of yours was, well, you know, there's so many things for me to consider. And I went, well, what are they then? What are the things you have to consider? And he went, well, it's just like records, race wins, GP wins, all that kind of stuff, you know. So I almost thought at that moment he's committed himself to MX2, and I wouldn't be surprised if he stays MX2.
It would be a very strange move. I think many people after last year and his dominance thought that this year him staying in MX2 was a bizarre move.
Yeah.
But you know,
he's breaking records, isn't he? You know, fastest rider to rack up 38 GP wins in the shortest space of time. We already mentioned that every GP that he's raced since the start of 2013. So in this last 18 months, year and a half, he has won every GP that he started.
Well, it's also quite scary the fact that he's 19 years old and he's, you know, close to Stefan Everts' record, half of his record total.
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, he's got another 10, 11, 12 years in the sport.
Yeah.
But
everyone's saying that, of course, if he did go to the GP, that would change, but it wouldn't for long, would it? Because Kai Rode's not going to be around forever.
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably see Hurlings fighting with DeSalle in a couple of years for GP wins. You know, a couple of, maybe even Arno Tonis, who we're looking at in second place. We haven't talked much about him, but he's, you know, on a lot of people's shopping list for next year. 2 teams in the USA alone, 3 teams out in MXGP because he has to move up. He's 23 years old.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where Tony's going to be riding next year. People talking about Husqvarna, people talking about Honda.
Some people saying maybe America, but
yeah, there's 2 offers on the table there allegedly. So it's, you know, I hope he stays here because I think with his build, his strength, his technique, he'll be a really good rider on the bigger bike. It might be interesting to see what he can do on a 350.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting as well. Someone like Tonis, I don't know. You know, a polished rider, yes, a stylish rider, very, very smooth, very technically aware and technically gifted, of course he is. But in terms of that finisher's instinct, you know, that real sort of go-get-em attitude that might be needed in America, that might be the thing that stops him from going there, you know. I think he needs this year in MX2 just to get himself a top 3 place. That will give him a boost of confidence. He'll go MXGP next year, I think, maybe just do a 1-year deal and then look at his options.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
But I think every time year or season he stays here more, it's going to be harder to do something like Supercross.
Of course it is.
But it's, you know, I think with the style and the approach he has, Arno Tonis, if he's on the right bike, right track, he'll just like whole shot and he'll disappear. You know, he's capable of doing that on the bigger bike. It's like you say, when it comes down to a little bit of banging and a little bit of elbows, you know, we never really seen him in that situation yet.
No. Just saw Mel Pocock flash through in one of the corners in the background. He's in 12th place. And
British Championship leader.
Yeah. So, with about a lap and a half to go, let's give you a quick rundown. Jeffrey Hurlings leads from Tonis second. Jordi Tixier third. Roman Febvre is fourth. Tim Geiser is fifth. Dylan Ferrandis, Jeremy Siwa, Petr Petrov, Valentin Guia and Jose Boutron lead top 10. Thomas Covington is in 11th. Stays like this, your podium will be Hurlings, Tonis and Tixier. Febvre just missing out by a couple of points. Tim Geiser, well, the threat never really came, did it, Adam, in terms of he was well placed. I thought he would. It's not that it never came, it's just a difficult track, it's fast, it's difficult to pass on. But a third position could have been on the offering after his first podium last week, but he's just not responded. He's been pretty static in this race.
He had a big crash in the first moto, broke part of the neck brace. Yeah, it was just on the corner around the back, just got put, he lost the front in a rut and it chucked him over the top. So, you know, maybe that's having a bearing late into this second moto because lap times have dropped off by about 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds. So he might, I don't think he's not going to be caught by Ferrandis, that's for sure. But
and he'll be disappointed. I know he's riding with a shoulder injury, but he missed the Grand Prix here a couple of years ago, didn't he? He crashed in practice and broke the wrist and missed the whole weekend.
He's a rider I think we could potentially lose to the AMA for. I mean, he's a rider with ambitions of Supercross and racing in the United States. So Dylan Ferrandis, it'd be great to see him next year because I think he will be one of those guys going for wins if Jeffrey Hurlings does, you know, bump up to MXGP.
Yeah, it's interesting what Gauthier Paulin said actually during the last MX2 broadcast. Just one of those guys. He's young and sometimes, you know, I guess maybe just a little bit over exuberant.
Headless.
Well, he never said that, but nice word. Final lap then. And Arnold Tonis, he tried for a few laps in the beginning, didn't he, to stay with Jeffrey Hurlings, but that gap now almost 10 seconds. And looking like it's going to be a brace of second place finishes for him and second overall in the GP. for the fourth time this year.
And he's never really got close to exacting some revenge for 2012, was he, when Jeffrey Hurlings kind of put him into the fence quite famously or infamously.
Yeah, that's part of the track has gone now. After the finish line, after the step up in that bottom corner. But Jeffrey Hurlings just taking a quick look over his shoulder, knows he's got time on his side. Tixier 30 seconds back of the leader here, Jeffrey Hurlings. And then Fevre is fourth. Geiser is still fifth, Veranda's sixth, Siwa seventh, Petrov eighth, Rio ninth. Hurlings goes past pit lane for the final time. Boutron is in 10th, Covington 11th, Pocock 12th, Anstey 13th, Robert Justice 14th, Dupre, Tonkov, Yamamoto, Gulyakov, August and Simon Mallet are your top 20, but Jeffrey Hurlings strolling the park once he got into gear.
Yeah,
the whole track was like that, would be awesome. That crucial moment with the back markers, wasn't there? When he broke Arno Tonis, that 2 to 3 second gap. GP win 39. Jeffrey Hurlings lights the candles, makes it another double victory in 2014 and wins the French Grand Prix here at Saint-Jean-d'Angely. Thanks, Adam. We'll see you probably in MXGP a little later on, but Jeffrey Hurlings will grab a quick word with him as soon as Amy Dargan slows him down enough to grab a word. But another dominant display from Jeffrey Hurlings today. Arno Tonis giving Bruno Cito a quick ride back down to the podium area. He'll be happy with his day's performance, I think. Right, here's Amy Dargan and Jeffrey Hurlings.
Jeffrey Hurlings, congratulations. You win here again in France and a 6th double moto win so far this season. Not bad, eh?
Yeah, I'm really happy. Sorry to talk again about my style, but 3 in a row this weekend, just really freaking amazing, you know. Riding was good. The track was really easy, the second moto, but you know, Arno was riding fast. You know, I had to push hard in the beginning, but halfway moto I could really make a big gap and checked out. So another 6 points for the championship on Arno, and really happy about my Red Bull KTM racing team. You know, they worked so hard and the bike was so great this weekend, so never could do it without them, and thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
Wins in Qatar, Thailand, Trentino, Bulgaria, the Netherlands, Spain, Great Britain, and now here in France. 8 wins out of 9 for Jeffrey Hurlings. And the only rounds where he didn't do the double were Qatar, with a second and a first and a second in Italy. All other rounds have been double moto victories. So 6 out of the 8 rounds for Jeffrey Hurlings that he's done, all with double moto scores.